He put it in the box and didn't want to take it out.
I am Mona, 45 years old. My life was ordinary at first, maybe even very simple, like the life of any Moroccan woman who lived trying to please others more than herself. I worked, sacrificed, raised children, and learned that love doesn't always come when you're young. Sometimes it comes late, and it comes in the form of someone you never expected would be your destiny. I met my husband Yusuf in unusual circumstances. He was working in a company where I was a client. The first time I saw him, I was drawn by his handsomeness and his polite way of speaking. Even though he was 15 years younger than me, I didn't care. I saw something pure in him, innocent, maybe because I needed to feel some warmth again after years of coldness and loneliness. Yusuf treated me with great respect, and the way he talked soothed the heart. With time, our relationship grew, and later it became love. People didn't understand how a woman my age could love someone like him. They said a lot. They judged me before they knew me. But I felt that I had finally found someone who listened to me, cared about me, saw me as a woman and not an age. We got married, and I was happy, sincere in my feelings. I gave him everything from my heart. I wanted to make up for any emptiness he might feel in a marriage that didn't come at the right age. I used to say, true love doesn't know age, appearance, or time. It only knows the heart. The first days were beautiful. Laughter, tenderness, sweet words. I felt young again, like a teenager who discovered love for the first time. I kept convincing myself every day that the age gap was just a number, and affection and mercy could build a happy life. But deep inside, there was a small voice asking, is love alone enough to survive years, fatigue, and differences? I was afraid to answer, and I hid the doubt inside hope, until the day everything changed. Time played its role. The days that used to be full of tenderness and laughter became cold, dull, like winter sun that shines but doesn't warm. Yusuf changed. He became more busy, leaving early, coming home late, saying work was too much, the projects, the pressure. And I understood. I tried to stand by him, to relieve him, but every time I found myself falling deeper into a pit of silence. At first I said, maybe it's just a phase. Every marriage goes through some stagnation. But no. The distance between us began growing without me noticing, until it became like a wall. He no longer talked to me like before, no longer cared about the small details of my life. No questions, no discussions. Not even the, how was your day, which became an impossible sentence. I kept searching in his eyes for the old look, the look that said, I love you, but I never found it. At night, I felt cold although the blanket was there, and I tried to cover my heart before covering my body. I kept convincing myself that patience was the key to comfort, and time would bring everything back to normal. But the truth was that I was living alone inside a marriage on paper. I smiled in front of people so they wouldn't notice what was inside me, but deep down, I was dying, little by little. I felt I was losing myself, losing communication, warmth, the desire to live. And every time I asked myself, where did that love go? Was it me? Was it him? Or maybe this marriage from the beginning was built on illusion. I wanted to confront him, but I kept running away. I was afraid of losing what was left, afraid of hearing something that would break me. I preferred silence, and my silence was the beginning of the end. The day became like yesterday, and yesterday like tomorrow. Everything became identical. colorless, tasteless, lifeless. I woke up early, cleaned the house, cooked, washed, prepared Yusuf's breakfast, and watched him leave for work in complete silence. He no longer kissed me before leaving, no longer gave that look that gave me energy. Just one cold word. Goodbye. And the door would close, and with it, a part of my heart would close too. The house became empty. The ceilings echoed the sound of my footsteps, and the clock counted time like a jailer watching the length of suffering. I tried to find anything to occupy myself, sometimes reading, sometimes watching TV, sometimes going for a walk. But that feeling of loneliness never left. I wanted to hear a voice, any voice, just to feel I wasn't alone in this big house that had become as cold as me. I went back to remembering the beginnings, comparing yesterday's laughter with today's silence, and felt something slipping away from me. Maybe hope. I kept convincing myself that this was a phase and would pass. But with each passing day, I felt I was getting further away from him, and between us a sea no longer easy to swim through. And while I lived in that deadly routine, I didn't know that this visible silence was hiding a storm underneath, a storm that would change my whole life and make me realize that the most dangerous moment in a person's life is when they feel emptiness. Because emptiness sometimes makes us feel it in ways that kill us from inside. It was an ordinary day, or so it seemed at first. The sky was cloudy, the cold light, and the house silent as usual. No sound of laughter, no warmth, no life. Just me, loneliness, and memories that never stopped. I was torn between physical exhaustion and heart exhaustion. The emptiness I felt began eating me bit by bit like a light wind carving stone without being noticed. I needed a word, a hug, a small gesture of care, but there was no one. Everything was far, even I was far from myself. And in a moment of weakness, one day my uncle came to stay with us for a week, and he kept going at me for around 3 hours. I took 3, and when he tried for the 4th, I started crying and begging him to stop, but he didn't want to. Because I was lonely, I became like someone starved for affection, and I couldn't control myself. I broke beneath a feeling I had been trying to bury, a desire for life, for love, for a feminine feeling I had buried under patience and waiting. It wasn't bad intention, no planning, just a moment in which I lost control and my own self defeated me. And after that, silence. A heavy silence, suffocating, like clouds burying a city under their shadow. I looked in the mirror and saw nothing. Mona was no longer there. I tried to understand what happened, why, how, but every answer hurt. That moment that was so short became to me a lifetime of regret. I didn't want to make a mistake, didn't want to betray myself, but humans and their weakness learned the price of heedlessness. From that day, my life was not the same anymore. Everything changed, even the way I saw the world changed. What was simple and normal became painful, and what I called patience became a wound that never healed. After that day, the mirror became my enemy. Every time I looked at my face, I saw only an empty reflection stripped of innocence. I felt shame filling my heart and guilt walking with me in every step. Even my own voice became strange to me, as if I was no longer the one speaking, but a version of myself punishing me without mercy. I feared everything, people, life, the future, even myself. Every moment reminded me of the mistake. Every detail of the day took me back to the decision I made. I felt a heavy burden on my shoulders that I could not escape, and I wished I could disappear without a trace. And the hardest thing, I knew the mistake came from me, from a person who knew right from wrong, who knew boundaries, who had a conscience. I cried inside, why? How did I fall into this trap?
But there was no answer, only my tears and the sound of silence crying with me. That shock was bigger than any I ever had.
It wasn't just a moment of weakness. It was a deep wound, reminding me every day of what happened. I needed to get rid of this weight, but I didn't know where to start or who could listen without judging me. The nights became too long. Time no longer passed. It dragged slowly like a heavy shadow on my chest. I tried to sleep, but sleep refused to visit me, as if my eyes didn't want to rest. Every time I closed them, images lit up in my mind, memories, words, haunting me like endless nightmares. My tears became a part of me, no longer coming out occasionally, but becoming a habit. I cried in silence, afraid someone would hear me, wiping my face quickly, but the mark never disappeared. The exhaustion wasn't physical. It was the exhaustion of the soul that became empty, tired, without light or hope. My husband knew nothing. He lived with me under the same roof while I was dying, even as I sat right in front of him. He would ask me, "What's wrong? Why is your face so dim?" And I would smile and say, "Just tired a little." And he would return to his silence, and I would return to my internal prison. My silence became torture. It spoke louder than words. I wanted to scream, confess, wash my heart from the pain, but fear tied my tongue. The day came when I could no longer continue like that. I felt like I was going to explode from the inside, like a volcano silently moving, waiting for the moment to erupt. That day, I closed my door, sat on the floor, and started crying. Not the crying of a moment, but the crying of years, of guilt, suffocation, fear that exhausted me. I said, "God, forgive me. I didn't want to disobey. I didn't want to betray. I was just lost." I prayed while crying. Every prostration carried a story. Every tear was a confession. I wanted to find peace, not run from punishment. I wanted to feel myself again, to feel that God forgave me, that He did not close the door of mercy in my face. In that moment, I realized that the hardest betrayal is not against someone else. It's the betrayal against oneself. When you betray yourself, you lose your balance, your faith, even your self-image. No one can comfort you in that pain because you live with a person inside you that you no longer recognize. From that day, I decided to start again. Not to forget, because forgetting is a lie, but to learn how to live with regrets without letting it kill my hope. I began to get closer to God more sincerely, to pray honestly, to ask for forgiveness in every prostration, and tell myself, not everyone who sins is bad. The bad one is the one who stays in the sin. It was a new beginning, weak, hesitant, but sincere. Today, as I tell my story, I try to find the words to deliver a clear message to every woman, to every person. Don't fall into the mistake I fell into. No matter how loneliness is killing you, no matter how tired you are, even if you feel deprived, the moment you lose control of your heart and mind can change your entire life. Betrayal does not heal pain, does not bring happiness, does not soothe the soul. It only deepens the wound and destroys whatever respect you have left for yourself. But at the same time, repentance is possible. Forgiveness is possible from God or from people. But you cannot forget. The wound never completely disappears because it is a witness to your heedlessness, your moment of weakness, and a witness to the strength that comes from admitting and walking away from the wrong. I am Mona, and today I live with regret,
trying to reconcile with myself, forgive myself, and learn to be stronger without losing my self-respect again. And this is the lesson I want to convey. Mistakes happen, but awareness and acknowledgement are what give you the chance to rebuild your life again, without losing your soul along the way.